So this is problem 3 off of free response topic 5. Again, this is due Monday. While I'm thinking about what's due, 2 videos still left to watch if you haven't watched them yet. There's the slope field. Next question is find the second derivative. All right, well, first derivative is 2x minus y. So if I take a derivative of everybody, what's the derivative of 2x? 2. What's the derivative of y? dy dx. Okay, so that's sort of my answer. What's wrong with that answer? Why is that not good enough yet? Yeah, because it says in terms of x and y. So find the second derivative, done. In terms of x and y means I need to put 2x minus y in for the first derivative. Careful with the minus sign. Right? It's so frustrating when students get their calculus right but mess up a distributing a negative thing. Okay, find the second derivative in terms of x and y. Did that. Determine the concavity. Okay, so that's second derivative of all solution curves for the given differential equation. Oh, in quadrant 2. Give a reason for your answer. Well, in quadrant 2, what's going on in quadrant 2? X is negative, y is positive. That's how I would say it. If you wanted to be maybe fancy, you might say x is less than 0, y is greater than 0, but that's the same thing. So my second derivative, let's see if this works. 2 minus 2 times a negative number plus a positive number. Well, I got negative times negative, so I've got 2 plus a positive plus a positive. Okay, so now I know why they ask about quadrant 2, because it works out that everything's positive. Have I answered the question now? Yeah, not quite. It said determine the concavity. I haven't said anything about concavity. I mean, I'm like one step away, but what's the answer to the question? It's concave up. Therefore, concave up in quadrant 2. Give a reason for your answer. Well, the reason is x is negative, y is positive, the second derivative is positive. That means we're concave up. Again, every AP test is going to have some questions on there where you're like, what? I'd never heard that. I hadn't seen that before. Like quadrant 2, why does quadrant 2 matter? And then you start playing around, you're like, oh, now I see why they did that, because it worked out. Part C. Let y equals f of x be the particular solution. Okay, I'm worried now because I don't know how to find the particular solution, but with the initial condition f of 2 equals 3, does f have a relative minimum, a relative maximum, or neither at x equals 2? Okay, relative min-max. What would I be looking for? Like, so I'm trying to justify my answer first. So I know what I'm looking for. What's going on at a relative min or max? Pardon? Sign change of what? Of f prime. Okay. So f prime changes signs, except that, that's true, but f prime is 2x minus y. And so if I'm thinking about number line, the let's see, I know x equals 2 and y equals 3, but if I plug in x equals 1, I don't know what y is. If I plug in x equals 3, I don't know what y is. So you're right, that's the first derivative test. And it's not helpful for this problem. So it's a good thought, but it doesn't work here. So how else do we know if there's a relative min or max? What's the second derivative test? Use the second derivative. What would I be looking for off the second derivative? Okay, concavity. Let's maybe sketch a relative min and a relative max. Not a point of inflection. That's where concavity changes. So something like that is a point of inflection, but that's not a max or a min. And the first derivative isn't equal to 0. So I don't need the second derivative equal to 0. I'm only concerned with, let's see, the second derivative is greater than 0. Second derivative is less than 0. And so there is an element of first derivative. I need the first derivative to equal 0, and then I'll look at second derivative to figure out if it's down or up. That's the second derivative test. And you know, your first guess was first derivative test because that's how we did most of them. AP knows that most students do first derivative test, and so they've sort of found a problem or made a problem that forces you into the second derivative test. All right, so let's find the first derivative at 2, 3. So the first derivative is 1, which seems a little bit weird because if the first derivative is 1, what does that mean about relative min, relative max, or neither? Neither. The slope is 1. That's not what I was expecting. I was expecting it to get 0 here and then have to figure out if it's down or up. Neither. Slope equals 1. Which I would really double check, but f of 2 equals 3. Like I plug in 2, 3. I know I'm not messing that up. The slope of 1, if the slope's 1, that's definitely not a relative min or max. Trying to make sure I didn't miss anything on that one, because that seems like an odd answer. But that's the right answer. Looking back at the picture, they might could have asked, I'm surprised they didn't ask about 1, 2, because that's a flat spot. So then you'd have to figure out, well, is it concave up there or concave down there? And you can't really tell by the picture, because if you look at this spot, it looks like it might be a concave down. If you look at that, it might be concave up. So who knows? But it didn't ask about that spot. Part D. Maybe that's why C was easy, because there was another part to it. Or maybe they wrote the question and then thought, that was too quick. Let's do one more thing. Find the values of the constants m and b for which y equals mx plus b is a solution to the differential equation. Well, what's the differential equation? What are they talking about? Start back at the top and start rereading. Yeah, it says consider the differential equation. Oh, okay. dy dx equals 2x minus y. So I want to figure out where y equals mx plus b is a solution to this equation. So let's find dy dx. So if y equals mx plus b, what's dy dx equal? What's the derivative of mx plus b? Pardon? Not x, m. And then, back up, big picture here. What does dy dx tell you about a curve? Its slope. What does m tell you about a line? Slope. So, this makes sense. Yes, the derivative of a line should be its slope. Okay, so dy dx is m. 2x, I don't know that I have an answer for what x is. I do have an answer for what m is. Y equals mx plus b. So let's see, m equals 2x minus mx minus b. Let's see. Trying to separate the variables here. So if I'm headed for, if I want to get this to 0 equals 0, like that way it won't matter what x is, what would m need to be? This is tricky. So if m is 2, then that wipes this side out. And that would mean m plus b equals 0. So b would need to be negative 2. So I think that's right. It might be a good idea to go double check that. So y equals 2x minus 2. dy dx equals 2. And then we'll check it in the differential equation they gave us. So 2 equals 2 times x minus y was 2x minus 2. 2 equals 2x minus 2x plus 2. Yep, that's true. 0 equals 0. So I feel somewhat confident about those answers. Again, part D is always a little bit challenging. Your goal is to get parts A, B, and C and maybe scratch out a point on part D, and you're still on your way to a 5 if you do that. Alright, so that just leaves one left for you to do that we haven't done, and it only has 2 parts to it. One of the parts is, well, I haven't done it yet, but anytime you have a limit in a free response question, maybe not anytime. Do you know what you're probably going to end up doing on this? Probably L'Hopital's. Almost certainly L'Hopital's. And then part C, find the solution. That's where you have to separate the variables. I'm going to stop there. But that gets me 1 point already. And then integrate both sides and find C, and that's probably worth like 6 points on the A/B test. All right, are there any questions on multiple choice? 124. Y equals. Okay. I think what I would try first. So 4, 5 is a point. I think I would just see which one of these gives me 4, 5. Right? If I plug in 4, which ones do I get 5 for an answer? So, kind of starting with the answers. I don't really want to integrate that yet. Let's see what happens. So if I plug in 4, I'm supposed to get 5. 4 squared, 16. Square root of 25 minus 5, that guy's out. 9 plus 16 is 25, so B's a maybe. 5 plus 5 is 10, divided by 2 is 5. Okay, so D's a maybe. Square root of 25 is 5. Yep, so C's a maybe. So I was only able to throw out one of those. Alright, so I guess I got to work this problem the real way here. So separate the variables. Integrate both sides. They were kind. The left side's easy. It's not anything crazy. Solving for y is already done. What about the right-hand side? How am I going to figure out what that integral is? Let's let u equal 9 plus x squared, because when I peek ahead, du is 2x, which is good. So a 2 and a 1/2. So I'm leaning toward d with that 1/2, but I better keep going here. So all of that's du, and that's u to the negative 1/2. So increase the power by 1, divide by the new power. So that'd be u to the 1/2 times 2. Whoops, the 1/2 just went away. So now I'm not thinking d anymore. Plus c. So the 2's cancel. So square root of 9 plus x squared plus c. So I'm looking at my answer choices. And the only one that fits that would be B if c is 0. Because A and D have this 2 and the 1/2 thing on it. So those are there, I guess, for people who mess up the u substitution and end up, either not integrating right to get that 2, or not putting the 1/2 out front so they get that 2. But those 2's are supposed to cancel. So the answer is B.
Can you do 122?
122. Alright, the solution to that differential equation. Oh, they were kind. They did the separation of variables for us. So I can just integrate both sides. Y squared over 2 equals x squared over 2 plus c. Everybody's got x squareds and y squared, so not there yet. Maybe multiply through by 2 to clear out the fraction. I don't think c could be right because of that 4. Same with d. Where'd that 4 come from? And if I move them to the same side, it looks like it wants x to be positive, so x squared minus y squared, and then I could put the 2c on the other side, and so it would be a. And the reason it says a solution rather than the solution is because that 4 could be anything and it would still work. Thank you. slope fields. $129. A population of shrubberies increases at a rate, so dy dx, proportional k times the square root of the population. Well, the population is, I'm saying y, so something like that. If the population goes from 2,500 to 3,600 in 5 years, so at time 0, population was 2,500. Time 5, it was 3,600. Time 16, I don't know yet. I do see that 2,500 and 3,600 are perfect squares, so that probably be helpful here in a minute. Separate the variables. So dy over square root of y equals k times dx. But that's always dangerous to leave it like that. You try to integrate that without changing it, pretty good chance you'll mess it up. So I'm going to rewrite that as y to the negative 1/2. And just go ahead and integrate the other side. Kx plus c. See, we just integrated this on that last problem. Increase the power by 1. Divide by the new power. Plus c, but I got plus c on the other side. So y to the 1/2 equals kx plus c over 2. If I square all of that, this would be one of the last problems on a multiple choice test because there's a lot of work here. So let's plug in 0, 2,500. So 2,500 equals, the x is 0, so c over 2 squared. So 50 equals c over 2. So c equals 100. So y equals kx plus 100 over 2 squared. Next, let's use the other one, 3,600. So 3,600 equals 5k plus 100 over 2 squared. It's like, how's your algebra? Because there's a bunch of steps coming. Square root both sides. Multiply both sides by 2. Subtract 100. Divide by 5. Equals 4. Also remember, on the AP test you have tons of space, so they're not all squinched up like this. So my answer finally is 4x plus 100 over 2 squared. Which means I may as well make that 2x plus 50 squared. Running out of space here. So if I plug in 16, 2 times 16 is 32. 32 plus 50 squared. I don't know if this would be a calculator one or not. Whatever 82 squared is. Let's see, 82 squared. 80 squared is 6,400. I can throw out B. It didn't say calculator, so good old-fashioned 82 times 82. So is MC724 an answer? Yes, it is. Yeah, don't do that one till the very end, right? Like, knock out the shorter ones, and that one's probably toward the end, but if it's not, you do a first couple of steps, you're like, wait a minute, I gotta find K and C, like I know how to do it, but let's pause on that one and come back to it. Well, proportional means, that would mean K times. And then the square root of the population is where the square root of P or Y would come from. The rate is what, I guess I should have done dP dt to make it more official looking. Alright, so stop there. That means the only thing we haven't done in class is number 4. We gave a couple of hints on that. And then we did some of the multiple choice. So Monday this is due, along with the 2 videos, videos 4 and 5.